स्वधाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्यति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। भूतैर्महद्भिर्यमः पुरो विभु निर्मायशेते यदमुषु पूरुषा भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडश षोडशात्मक सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे। श्रीकृष्ण शरणं शरणागतं कथामृतं सततपीबतं भक्तिवेदान्तमार्गपन्थनं सर्वलोकऋषिदेव जन्मप्रसन्नं सर्वलोकऋषिदेव जन्मप्रसन्नम्। Hare Krishna, dear Prabhus and Matatis. Welcome to the morning Srīmad Bhāgavatam clarification and study. So we're continuing with the purport of Canto 2, chapter titled The Lord in the Heart, text number 30. So let's recite the verse once again. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye nashtaprayeshvavatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Sabhuta sukshmendriya sannikarsham manomayam devamayam vikaryam samsadhya gatya sahatena yati Vijnana Tattvam Guna Sannirodham. Translation: the devotee, thus surpassing the gross and the subtle forms of coverings, enters the plane of egoism, and in that status he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism in goodness. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahat Tattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization. So the constitutional position of the living entity, as mentioned in the paper yesterday, is that he is the eternal savior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And any other designation apart from them is in the platform of different degrees of ego or false recognition. So let's continue with the purport where we left off. So when we speak of hearing and chanting, yes, when we speak of hearing and chanting, it means that not only should one chant and hear the holy name of the Lord as Rama, Krishna, or systematically the 16 names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But one should also read and hear the Bhagavad Gita and Srīmad Bhāgavatam in association of devotees. So this is very important point to bear in mind, because Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is directly coming from the Supreme Lord and is not different from the Lord. Just an experience we had last Sunday. In last Sunday's class, we just recited one verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the first of the seed verses of Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matava bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. And this is the seed verse where Krishna says to Arjuna that I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this engage in my devotional service with all their hearts. So a very simple verse, but the sound vibration of recitation in the people gathered of about 60 was so nice, and everyone was trying to memorize the verse, and by the end few people had memorized the verse. And of course, that's not the end of it, because that sound vibration goes on when they go out of the temple room and start reciting those verses in their respective homes. So the homework for those persons were to learn those verses by heart and come again this Sunday, where the rest of the 3 verses, making the 4 verses, would be recited. Now, in association of devotees, this becomes sublime. So, Prabhupada continues in the paper, the primary practice of bhakti yoga will cause the seed already sown in the heart to sprout. And by a regular watering process, as mentioned above, the bhakti yoga creeper will begin to grow. So this hearing and chanting is the watering process. We may plant a seed or we may plant a creeper. However, if we don't systematically nourish it by putting water, then it will dry out and die. Prabhupada continues, the systematic nurturing, the creeper will grow to such an extent that it will penetrate the coverings of the universe. As we have heard in the previous verses, reach the effulgent sky, the Brahmajyoti, and go further and farther, and reach the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable spiritual planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. Above all of them is Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, where the growing creeper enters and takes repose at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. When one reaches the lotus feet of Lord Krishna at Golok Vrindavan, the watering process of hearing and reading, also chanting of the holy name in pure devotional stage, fructifies, and the fruits grown there in the form of love of God are tangibly tasted by the devotee, even though he is here in this material world. Now, the important point here is, even though we may be in the material world, and certainly we are in the material world, but by this process of hearing and chanting, consistently and incessantly, with care and attention, we can reach the realm of Golok Vrindavan. And this process very nicely is described by Lord Brahma in Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Ye tu tvadiya charanam mujakosha gandham jigranti karna vivareshu tivatanitam. That Krishna's lotus feet has a very special smell of saffron mercy particles. That yetu tvadiya charanam bhujakosha gandham. But how can we reach there? Jigranti karna vivareshwati vatanitam. By the air of Vedic sound, we can reach there. the air of Vedic sound carries that aroma of the lotus feet of Krishna. And then it is said that Bhaktya Grihita Charana Parayacha Tesham. The devotee then very firmly holds onto the lotus feet of Krishna. This is the same thing described here, that through the process of hearing and chanting, which is like watering, the creeper penetrates the material sky, the spiritual sky, the Brahma Jyoti, and finally reaches the Golok Vrindavan planet, where it intertwines around the lotus feet of Krishna. And that is called Bhaktya Grihita Charana Parayacha Tesham. The devotee gets hold of the lotus feet of Krishna. Like Brahmaji says, that Yanme Hido Kantavata Dhrito Harihi. Dhrita Harihi means very tightly holding onto the lotus feet of Krishna. And in this way, Naipaishinat Hitayam Buruham Swapumsam. And the Lord also then becomes firmly manifested in the heart of the devotee, and he never leaves the devotee in his heart, meaning he continues to reciprocate. And this reciprocation here in the paper is described as the ripe fruits of love are realized only by the devotees constantly engaged in the watering process as described above. So this hearing and chanting of Bhagavad Gita, Srīmad Bhāgavatam, and the holy names of the Lord are so nice. It will give us the highest perfection, highest realization. It is said that love of Krishna is within us. We won't get it from somewhere externally. What is that verse? Krishna Bhakti Nitya Siddha Sadhya Kavanai Shravanadi Suddha Chitta Karahodai. That Krishna Bhakti Nitya Siddha, eternally, Bhakti of Krishna is within our hearts. And Sadhya Kavanai, we cannot get it from somewhere externally. But how can that love be manifested if it's dormant within our hearts? Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Karaho Udai. And that by the process of Shravana, hearing, Adi, chanting, remembering, this becomes Udai, this becomes manifested. So this is the sublime process, wonderful process. It's not that we hear once and then we're done with it. No, this process continues eternally, chanting and hearing, because this process in itself is the end. The Bhakti Yoga process is the means and the end both. We don't need to endeavor separately for fruits. Bhakti is its own fruits, as Narad Muni says in Bhakti Sutras. Can we have the paper back again, Prabhuji? So the ripe fruits of love of God are realized only by the devotees constantly engaged in the watering process as described above. But the working devotee must always be mindful so that the creeper which has grown will not be cut off. Therefore, he should be mindful of the following considerations. Now here comes the warning, that yes, the watering process is there, but so that the creeper is safe and does not become damaged or killed, we have to take care of the following. First, offense by one at the feet of pure devotee may be likened to the mad elephant who devastates a very good garden if it enters. So despite doing this process of hearing and chanting, if we engage in criticism of pure devotees of the Lord, then this is known as a mad elephant offense. Why a mad elephant offense? Because when a mad elephant goes into the garden, it indiscriminately just destroys everything. He tramples on the plants, the creepers, the flowers, and destroys the whole garden. So on one hand, we may be very carefully doing chanting and hearing, but then when we are not able to appreciate and worse yet, be critical of pure devotees of the Lord who are spreading the glories of the Lord, or even in our minds we have envy towards them, then this is regarded as a mad elephant offense. Number two, one must be very carefully to guard himself against such offenses at the feet of pure devotees, just as one protects a creeper by all around fencing. Yes, we have to have checks and balances, that our words, our mind, and the actions of our body do not harm anyone, and especially the pure devotees of the Lord. If it does not harm anyone, then the pure devotees will be inclusive as well. Therefore, in Srīmad Bhāgavatam, Narad Muni says to Yudhishthir Maharaj, Naita drishi paro dharmo sad dharmam ichchatam rinam, that a person who wishes to follow the path of righteousness, religiosity, spirituality, then nyasto dandesu bhutesu mano va kaya anyasa, then he has to avoid violence by words, violence by mind, and violence by kaya, by body. In mind, when we think, oh, I wish this person gets run over by the bus, then that is an offense. If such a thing comes in the mind against pure devotees. Number three, it so happens that by watering process, some weeds are also grown. And unless such weeds are uprooted, the nurturing of the main creeper or the creeper of Bhakti Yoga may be hampered. And Sneha Bhakti Mataji in her class very nicely had explained that yes, as we progress in devotional service, other unwanted things, anarthas may also come. Because when you put water near the plant, if there are weeds, seeds of weeds, they also become energized. So in our hearts, the seed of lust as well. And when we do devotional service, it also becomes energized. However, if we are not careful and we let it grow, then it will overtake the creeper and it will strangle the creeper and strangle it out of any oxygen for growth into spiritual world. Therefore, we have to be very, very vigilant that these unwanted weeds are uprooted. Uprooted meaning from the root, not just trimmed from the top, but they are pulled out from the cores of our hearts. Number four, actually these weeds are material enjoyment, merging of the self in the absolute without separate individuality, merging into Brahmajyoti, for example, and many other desires in the field of religion, economic development, sense enjoyment, and emancipation, meaning dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So anything other than prema pumartho mahan, unmotivated and uninterrupted pure devotional service to Krishna comes in the category of sense gratification. And this includes material enjoyment, merging of self into absolute without separate individuality. In Sanskrit, this is known as kaivalyam. Kaivalyam means without any individuality, trying to merge into Brahmajyoti. And the scriptures describe this as narakam. Narakam means hellish. Kaivalyam narakayate tridashapu akasha pushpayate. Trying to enjoy materially by going into heavenly planets. Bhogeshwarya, gatim pratim, and trying to enjoy there, that is called just like a akasha pushpa, just flowers in the sky. It doesn't have actual existence. And it allures us, but it condemns us because it deprives us of the pure love of Krishna, which is the actual position of pleasure. for the living entity. And in the name of religion, even sense gratification infiltrates through economic development, sense enjoyment, and finally liberation. But a devotee is not interested. A pure devotee is not interested in this. I remember my Guru Maharaj used to sing this bhajan, Nrsimha Mehta bhajan in Gujarati, where it says, Hari na jana to mukti na mange mange, janama janama avatar re. Nitya seva nitya kirtanotshava nirahavananda kumar re. Bhutala bhakti padartha muktu Brahmalokama hire. On this planet Earth, the process of devotional service to Krishna is more sublime. And even in Brahmaloka, this is not there. And Harina Janna, to Mukti na Mange, and the devotees of Lord Krishna, Lord Hari, they do not desire even emancipation or liberation. Why? Because they regard that as hellish condition. So what they want? Nitya Seva, eternally saving Sri Radha Krishna. Nitya Kirtana, eternally singing Kirtan and hearing Krishna's pastimes. And constantly gazing at the beautiful form of the son of Nanda Maharaj, Sri Krishna, Nirakava Nanda Kumar. Number 5. There are many other weeds like disobedience to the tenets of the revered scriptures, unnecessary engagements, killing animals, hankering after material gain, prestige, and adoration. So a devotee is very, very vigilant that he doesn't become a victim of his own delusionary disobedience. And he very, very careful walks on this path of Bhagavad Dharma. Number 6, if sufficient care is not taken, then the watering process may only help to breed weeds, stunning the healthy growth of main kripa and resulting in no fructification of the ultimate requirement, love of Godhead. Sometimes, we plant the seed, but the seed never fructifies. Around it, the weeds grow very, very healthy and nice, and they cause destruction. Similarly, if we are not sufficiently caring in this watering process of hearing and chanting, and careful as to introspecting as to what is happening, whether the weeds, anger, lust, all these things are coming out with more boisterously, then what to do, and not trying to pull them out, then one's devotional service will be dampened. Number 7, the devotee must therefore be very careful to uproot the different weeds in the very beginning. Only then the healthy growth of the main kripa not be stunted. So in Bhagavad Gita, very nicely it is explained that the enemy in form of lust occupies the strategic positions in the body of the living entity. And what are these strategic positions? The senses, the mind, the intelligence. So in warfare, the enemies occupy strategic positions. So similarly, when the senses are completely covered with lust, then if it penetrates further, then it becomes infiltrates further into the mind. And then it penetrates further, it becomes infiltrated into intelligence. And then the living entity hardly has any hope. So one should recognize how this enemy in form of lust, or here the energy is used as weed, is infiltrating our consciousness. If it's only at the level of senses, then it can easily be moved. Like the weeds, which are just growing up, then they can easily be removed. However, if it goes to the mind, it goes a bit deeper in the ground, then it is a bit difficult to remove. However, if the intelligence is completely inundated, meaning the root is further going much, much deeper into the ground, then it is impossible to remove. But this process of hearing and chanting is so sublime, Prabhupada mentions, that it surpasses the sensual, mental, and intellectual plane and directly takes one to the spiritual strata, provided, again, it is done with care and attention. So we have to analyze how deep-rooted our disease is, how cancerous our spiritual life is. That, if there's stages of cancer, first stage, second stage, third stage, fourth stage. If it goes to fourth stage, then it is very, very difficult to come back. Nonetheless, it is possible to come back. We know few devotees, who were in fourth stage, and they completely recovered. But that recovery demands, of course, the medicines will be there, but then it requires a lot of discipline on the part of the patient to be careful on what they eat, what they talk, how they regulated they are in their sleeping, and all these things. And if they are pakka, very mature in that approach, then even the fourth stage of cancer can be got rid of. Similarly, even if our mind and intelligence are completely inundated by this enemy lust, and the weeds are very deep in the ground, it can still, through the process of hearing and chanting, with care and attention, they are the key words, care and attention, be completely uprooted, these weeds. Number 8, and by doing so, the devotee is able to relish the fruit of love and thus live practically with Krishna, with Lord Krishna, even in this life, and be able to see the Lord in every step. This is the result, the fruit of love of God. When there is love of Krishna, then nothing else is required, nothing else is needed. But to reach that stage, care and attention is definitely required. Concluding sentence by Prabhupada, the highest perfection of life is to enjoy life constantly in the association of the Lord, and one who can relish this does not aspire after any temporary enjoyment of this material world via other media. This is the punchline, Prabhu's and Mataji's. Again, the highest perfection of life is to enjoy. We are meant to enjoy, but we don't know where the real enjoyment is. Real enjoyment is only in association of the Lord, because there we can really relish. And once we are able to relish in loving service of the Lord, then we will no longer aspire for temporary material enjoyment or enjoyment via any other media. As Dhruv Maharaj says, after attaining Krishna and love of Krishna, Swamin Krithatosmi, oh my Lord, I am now fully satisfied. Varam Nayache, I do not desire any other benediction. The love of Krishna, it fulfills all the desires of the heart. Nothing else is needed when the devotee's heart becomes full of love of Krishna. Any other desires which may enter, like rivers enters into the sea, but the sea remains always full. Similarly, the devotee's heart always remains full when he is constantly in engagement and in communion with his beloved Lord. Thank you, Prabhuji and Matajis. Any questions or comments? What a wonderful paper this was, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you for a beautiful class, Prabhu. I have a question. We're discussing weeds in this particular purport, and you mentioned that some weeds can easily be removed and some weeds are at a deeper in mental level. What does that mean, Prabhu? And how do we know which weeds are like very deep and which weeds can be easily removed? How do we understand that?
Yes, when the weeds are at the so Bhagavad Gita describes this in form of lust. So in third chapter, Krishna says to Arjuna that this lust is the eternal enemy of the living entity, and he says that the in form of enemy, it has occupied the strategic positions. So when it is at the sensual level, meaning the level of senses, then the mind and the intelligence can deliberate. The intelligence can tell the mind, and the mind can then pull the senses back. No eating of sugar, no good for you. No eating of meat, no good for you. So that, but if it leads to the level of mind, if the mind itself becomes consumed, then it becomes a bit difficult, quite difficult actually, if the mind is not within the control. The intelligence may still know, no, this is not right, and the intelligence may try to rein in on the mind. But then if this cancer spreads deeper at the level of intelligence, then even when the person is told this is not right, this is wrong, the intelligence itself is corrupted. The software failure is already there. So it becomes very, very difficult. So as to your question, how, when, and this can be uprooted at a deeper level, it only requires the mercy of the Supreme Lord and the pure devotee, where even at the deeper level, they can destroy the ego of the living entity and prove that even intellectually their argument is wrong, like how Prabhupada could convince even the celebrated atheists, and at the end they would accept, yes. So these things are there, but by devotional practice with care and attention and the process of hearing and chanting, it can be uprooted from the deeper levels as well. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, sure, Prabhu. I was actually trying to understand. So if, for example, if a person is, say, not kind, but the intelligence knows that they are meant to be, kindness is good to have, or honesty is good to have. It's a good value to have.
Yes.
But he or she is still dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
So is that an anartha at a deeper level, or is that anartha at the sensual level?
No, that is anartha at a deeper level. So yeah, if it is at the mental level, if one just at the level of senses just does things here and there, but in mind he doesn't mean it, then that's at a shallow level. But if it's at a mental level, then it is definitely a deeper level. But still, by deliberate intelligence, Krishna says, one can still rein onto it. But if it's at the intellectual level, then that is the deepest level. Then it becomes difficult. Then only by, Bhagavatam says, that only by the association of the pure devotee of the Lord, the person may be cleansed completely.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much for a beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Prabhus and Matajis. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That's beautiful class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.